So speak life, when the sun won't shine and you don't know why. Look into the eyes of the broken hearted, watch them come alive as soon as you speak hope, you speak love, you speak life.
Welcome to another installment of Dealing with Life. Hi, I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We do this every week. We talk with people just like you, people who are going through stuff, people who have found a deepened faith and they've found victory through the power of Jesus. We also talk with people who have been called to help others. Why do we do this? We want you to know that you're not alone and that people are going through stuff just like you. Maybe not the same stuff, but difficult stuff. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is strength to be found in the midst of the struggle. In the studio today is Cindy McConkey Cox. So glad to have you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. Thank you, Tom.
Cindy, you are a media mogul, we might say. You have been in corporate or in communications for, 30 years?
30 plus, yes.
Wow. So you started, and I think this is tremendously interesting, you started at the Knoxville Journal back in the 80s?
Yes, 1980. I was the first woman sports writer in Knoxville and one of the first in the South.
Holy smoke.
I was the first woman to cover Southeastern Conference football for the first part of the 80s.
That was unheard of then.
Oh, definitely unheard of. They didn't know what to do with me.
The guys interviewing would go, I ain't talking to you.
No, usually the players were pretty willing to talk to me. A young 20-something woman wanting to interview them, and
well, that's true. Yeah, I can see that. Come over here, I'll talk to you.
It was the coaches who were a little bit more wanting to know what this little gal was doing on the football field, and what did I really know about football, and that sort of thing. And but it was a great opportunity for me.
That led to something else.
Yeah, well, I went on to USA Today from Knoxville and was the one of a handful, one of three women sports writers on the national scene at USA Today.
Holy smoke. Wow. Okay, so that started all this. Where'd you go from there?
When I moved back from Washington, D.C. and USA Today, I went into something totally different for me, which was public relations, and I was a public relations consultant with an agency here in town for 16 years, and that was another wonderful opportunity in that I got to learn a lot about business. Worked with a wide variety of businesses, from hospitals to research facilities to developers,
right?
And
I knew you a little
chemical
bit.
companies.
Yes,
we sure did.
That's where we rubbed elbows.
That's
for a
where we
while.
first met each other.
Right, and so that wasn't the end of the story, because then you moved to one of the power forces in town here.
I did. I had the opportunity to meet Ken Lowe as a part of Leadership Knoxville. So
okay.
you never know when you're in an organization like that or going through a class like Leadership Knoxville or Nucleus Knoxville or one of those things. You never know who you're going to meet.
Right.
And I met Ken Lowe there, who is the founder and CEO and chairman of Scripps Networks. And he and I got to talking a lot and understood the communications world, and I had an opportunity to go to Scripps and took it, and it was a fabulous move for me. I was able to work on the national scene, but remain local.
Right.
And so much of prior to that, the agency I was with, we'd grown, and I was having to travel a tremendous amount, and my children were young. They were in middle school, and I was missing time with them.
That's hard.
And so this gave me an opportunity to work on a national level, but spend most of my time locally. And that was an important move for me. It was something I think important for my family at the time.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's the trouble with success sometimes, is that means you got to travel more, and your time is compromised. But what a great move. Yeah, Scripps, I'm a former employee,
I know that.
as you well know. And it's just, I just love what they do. I love how they do it. They treat Knoxville They embrace it as home, and if you don't want to travel, then they work that into the equation.
Yeah, so, I think the company takes the work-life balance as seriously as it really can be taken. It's really up to the individual to make that work. And there are times that work is more of the balance and other times that life is more of the balance. But it was a great company to be with. I was there for 13 and a half years, headed corporate communications, had a team of 26 fantastic people.
That's a big team.
It was started out smaller, and I was able to really kind of grow and develop my group as the company grew,
Right.
and to support what was needed from a communication standpoint. And I loved every minute of it. I was very fortunate to have every step along the way, whether it was in the sports writing or in the PR agency, learning about business and trying to tell their messages and tell their stories, and then scripts. I was just very fortunate to have a job that was very enjoyable to me. And I'm really about storytelling, and that's, if you can build a brand through authentic storytelling, then you've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, when you draw people in, and Scripps has a wonderful story to tell anyway.
Yeah.
But 5 major international networks, plus countless broadband and web presence and whatnot. But you had a large job to deal with Scripps and communicating the ups and the downs and the positive and the negative press that they dealt with. What kind of pressure was that?
It was pressure like any executive level position, and I would say mine was no more or no less than other people, except mine might have been a little more visible.
That's true.
Because it is communications and it was on the front line. And I always told people my best work nobody ever saw, because if you're really good at crisis communications, nobody knows it.
You're transparent. Exactly. They see the squeaky wheel. Exactly. So as humble as I know you're not going to mention it, but I will. Cindy McConkey Cox was recognized as one of the most powerful women in cable in 2010. Woman of the Year in Communications by the National Association of Professional Women. Also you serve on the Healthy Media Commission for Positive Images of Women and Girls. And you already mentioned Leadership Knoxville, and you've planning committees on the National Cable Television Association. I mean, goodness, we could go on for the rest of the show just doing that. But congratulations on your presence, and also what you do with women in business, because I know that's important to you.
Well, I have 2 daughters, and having been a woman in sports writing and sports journalism, there weren't a lot of people to pull me along and lead the way. And I think the more we can do that, and not just for women, but for minorities and for anyone who doesn't have an opportunity, we need to do that for them. We're missing out on some real talented people if we keep going back to the same stereotype or the same person who did it before.
Sure. It's the best person for the job. It's the people that don't always get recognized right up front. That's great. That's great. And you've been married for 33?
Almost 37 years.
Oh my goodness! Wow, that's incredible. Now, I know Gary, and he's a wonderful person. And
he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, he's all right. He's a keeper, as they say. So Scripps is not the end of the story.
No. When I was at Scripps in August of 2013, everything is humming along. My career is going great. My family's doing well. My oldest daughter is married and living in New York and attending Princeton, and my youngest daughter is on a track scholarship competing at the University of Louisville.
Goodness.
Gary is doing his work with UPS and refereeing soccer, which is his passion.
Yeah.
And my job was very fulfilling and very busy. And
it was humming right along.
It really was. And we hit a bump in the road with a diagnosis of a rare form of cancer, biliary liver cancer. It's called cholangiocarcinoma.
Right.
And it is, my form of the cancer was inoperable and incurable. And it was a pretty rough diagnosis. From the onset, they said that Most people with what I have would live 12 to maybe 18 months.
Goodness.
And that would be only if they responded well to the chemotherapy and the treatments.
And this was 4 years ago?
Almost 4 years ago.
Almost 4 years ago. So that takes life in a little bit of a different direction. And you being a senior corporate executive, and of course, you already mentioned your husband was knee deep in his career and children going every which way. What do you do with that?
Well, you do your best with it, and you lean on your faith. You lean on your family and your friends, and you control the part you can control, and you give the rest up to God. And that's really was my approach. I never imagined that I would have something like this, because at the time I was very fit. I was lifting weights and exercising, probably 4 to 5 times a week. I was a hiker. We lived on the lake. I have a very active lifestyle.
Not defined as a couch potato.
And I was a pretty clean eater, too. That was the other thing. I won't say I was totally clean or organic at the time, but I was a pretty healthy eater, too.
You watched what you were eating.
And so I never imagined me. But when it occurred, I didn't ever really have that why me moment.
Which is very natural.
I think it can be natural to ask that question.
Sure.
And I guess my thought process took it a different place. Is, well, if it is me, then what am I to do with it? How am I to respond?
Yeah. And that's sometimes for some people that's step 8, and you started that with step 1. Now, you being in communications, and especially with a multinational, international company, and being corporate executive, so you dealt with crisis management.
I did. I dealt with crisis communications, crisis management quite a bit. And so I think that it helped me, it equipped me, perhaps, to have a mindset of, okay, what can I do now? Right. And what I said a minute ago was, what parts can I control about this? And so I kind of just went into it with the approach of, let me get all the information I can, let me get the best people around me to help.
Yeah.
And whether that was a doctor or whether that was a minister or whether that was my family, put the right people in the room to help me get through the situation.
Well, I think what's important for people listening to this is you didn't shut down. You didn't take this as a death sentence. You took this as a call to action.
I had a lot of support, but no, I did not shut down. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and I grew up a tomboy and an athlete, and some could say I'm a fighter or very competitive.
Yeah. It's
just not my nature to quit and shut down.
Well, that's that, and that obviously is playing in your favor, because you've taken this head on, and you smile, and you are not a gloomy, woe is me. You're going, I'm after this. I'm going after this.
Well, that has been my approach, and each person played a part. My oldest daughter really dug into researching diet and what I needed to be eating and what I didn't need to be eating.
Right.
And I really focused on the medical attention, and my husband and my younger daughter really focused on how to help me and what support I needed otherwise. And my brothers and sisters really came in, and
well, family support is a number 1.
Well, the other thing I would say, I have a brother. One of my brothers has Parkinson's disease.
Okay.
And he has had it for many years, a dozen years or so. And he was an all-state athlete, and he was the stud, and he hiked the Appalachian Trail and all of this. So all people,
activity is in your family.
For all people to be struck with something like Parkinson's, he was, and he never complained. To this day, I've never heard him complain. I've never heard him be resentful about it. He's always tackled this with a faith and a positive attitude that was a great example to me.
Wow. Then that's just the beginning. We're going to dig into your approach, your faith, your family, and how to move forward instead of being stuck in one place. This is a show called Dealing with Life, and that's exactly what Cindy's doing. We'll have more of Cindy's story here in just a minute. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a book about life, a book about worry through the eyes of a dog. Dealing with Life will continue in just a few minutes.
You alone are the anchor when my sails are torn. Your love surrounds me in the eye of the storm. It's easy to sing when there's nothing to bring me down. But what will I say when I'm held to the flame like I am right now? I know you're able and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone.
Whether by accident or whether on purpose, you have found a show called Dealing with Life. Really nice to have you along. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a book about worry, and a book about life through the eyes of a dog. My dog, Mango. Mango is a sweetheart of an 8-year-old mutt, a rescue from young Williams. And going through a period of time in my life where I worried, I saw how she tried to help. And that's what the book is about, One Dog's Faith. But right now in the studio is Cindy McConkey Cox, a person who's been in public relations and corporate communications and sports writing and all that for a long time in your life. But you hit a bump in the road that doesn't seem to even cover it. What do you call it?
A life challenge.
A life challenge.
And, Tom, everybody has life challenges. And
They do.
That's what we forget. We can navel gaze and think about our life challenges.
Yeah.
But that's one of the ways I think that God keeps us real, is if we recognize that what we're facing is just ours, and you faced something else, and the person in the car at the red light faced something else.
Everybody is going through something.
That's right.
Exactly. And I think that's how we understand that we need to depend on God, by challenges and struggles, and we each have our own. You're right. And the thing is, what we strive for is no challenges and the easy chair, as I call it. And then when you're there, you learn nothing.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I was doing Bible study for a couple of years prior to being diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma. And then the very first Bible study, I get diagnosed in August. I go into my fall Bible study, and it's like God picked it for me. And it was
He pre-prepared you.
It was Gideon. We were studying Gideon, and I'd never really read anything about Gideon.
Okay.
Didn't know anything about Gideon. And the very first session was about, we ask for things, we want stronger faith, or we want to be closer to God, or we want this or that, but we aren't willing to put our feet in the fire, to be in the fire.
We just want God to give it to us.
And the way you get that iron gets made stronger is in the fire.
Yeah.
The way that gold gets made more precious is in the fire. And
Well, when you ask God for patience, He didn't just go, poof, here's patience. He gives you opportunity to learn it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it was such a message to me about where I was. And I told you a minute ago that when I was first diagnosed, I thought, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And then all of a sudden I'm presented this opportunity to study Gideon. And what I was supposed to do with it is go through the fire and become a light on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I still don't know what that means, but that's what I strive for through this.
Well, my view is people who are either, whether they're faithful or whether they're searching the faith, the first place yes, people go to church, but people watch other people. If you say, I'm a Christian, and you try to live the Christian lifestyle, people watch. And our charge is to reflect, or like you said, be a light about how great being a Christian is. I think that's our charge. And if we fold under pressure and we fall apart, as I did when I went through some things, but now understand that strength is part of what God is about, and hope is what He's about. And if we reflect that to others, especially in times of crisis, then man, how great does that make God look?
Oh, absolutely. My prayer from the very beginning, I know you're supposed to pray for healing, but I never could bring myself to that, because on the day that I received my biopsy results, one of my good friends at work lost her husband to brain cancer.
My.
And so why did he pass and I get to live? And so my prayer has not ever been for healing, but it's been for strength of faith.
Wow.
Because if I have strength of faith, then I will be fine.
You'll face it.
Regardless of what the outcome,
Yeah.
I will be fine, because He is my hope.
Yeah. And that's the operative word, hope. When you have strength of faith, you have hope. And hope means you see a possible, a great outcome of the future. And it doesn't always mean what we think it is. It means that God's going to shine. And your opportunity to shine Him is rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. I'm now an avid tennis player. I play USTA tennis. I play matches usually about 3 times a week, and clinics or practice 3 or 4 more times a week. And
So you didn't shut down.
no, I didn't. But the point of that is that I try to do that with the utmost of gratitude, because there are so many people who aren't able to do that, who don't have the physical ability, or who don't have the physical strength, or who don't have the positive outlook to get up and go do it. And
so you got a diagnosis of a very rare, incurable form of cancer, and you said, "I'm going to go play tennis."
Well, not quite like that, but okay.
But that was a motivator. I'm getting out there.
Well, I actually started playing tennis because I went through 2 rounds of chemotherapy, and I got neuropathy, which makes your feet numb and hurt, and I was getting a little clumsy. Uh-huh. And so the doctor actually suggested that I do something reactive.
Wow.
And so tennis was a reactive thing to do. And so that's kind of how I got into it.
Has it helped?
Yeah, it has. I'm still, it doesn't help in terms of the numbness or the pain or the tingling.
Yeah.
But I'm not as clumsy.
Okay. Well, I am.
Yeah, I can run around a tennis court now.
Gotcha. So I think one of the things that's very difficult about this process, it has to be your family. They're the ones who feel helpless, and they're the ones who it hurts. I mean, you have strength.
The absolute hardest day of the last 3.5, almost 4 years, was telling my 2 daughters.
Oh.
I mean, Gary was with me when we found out, so I didn't have to tell him.
Yeah.
I did have to tell my mother and my father, but telling my 2 daughters was the hardest day.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be tough. But what they play off of is your attitude.
I think so.
Your strength. And then, as close as they are to you, I'm sure they still watch and see how you draw on your faith. Some people push faith away in a diagnosis like that, and some people, like you, you're drawing closer to it.
Yeah, and I know your book talks about worry, and it's easy to go to a place of worry. Mm-hmm. You very quickly and very easily can go to, I won't see my youngest daughter get married. I did. I won't see my grandchildren. I'm going to be a grandmother this year.
Oh, praise God.
I won't get to grow old and retire with Gary. We're probably moving into the retirement years soon.
Right. You play all these things in your head.
You
That's
do.
what worry is.
You go down this path of, I'm not going to get to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And I believe that is spiritual warfare.
Yes.
And I believe that
One of the devil's greatest tools
that
is
is the devil trying to draw you into that worry and away from your faith. And so I very quickly, probably in the first month or two of going through this, very quickly said, I'm not going to do that. Anytime I start going down that rabbit hole, I'm just going to shut it down, and I'm going to ask God to take me out of that.
Oh, that's what it's all about.
And I really don't do that. And when I get asked by other people, and I do because I blog about this on Caring Bridge, and it's been picked up in some other places, and I get calls from all over the country, people dealing with cholangiocarcinoma, and that's what I tell them. I tell them, make sure your biopsy has been tested for genetic makeup. Make sure you go to a doctor you believe in and trust. Find your faith. Find whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
Lean on your faith, and don't go down that rabbit hole. Don't go down that worry hole.
Well, and that's the worry hole takes you directly to hopelessness.
That's right.
Because what is hope? Hope is a belief that the future is going to be okay. Somehow, some way, it's going to work out. And hopelessness is just worrying yourself to death, that it's not, that it's just going to all fall to pieces. And what we have to remember, and the book talks about this, is we have today. All of us, whether you have gotten a diagnosis, if you have, or whether or not, you still only have today.
That's
and
right.
you deal with today.
That's why, and people wonder when I say this, but my life's better now since the diagnosis of cancer than before. And I think it's because of that realization. I never had more than today.
Yeah.
And so you better, by golly, make it count.
Make it count today. Because none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's right.
What a powerful story. We're going to talk more. Cindy McConkey Cox is our guest today on Dealing with Life, and we have more to talk with her about. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We will deal with more in a minute.
I find you when I fall apart. Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. The trouble it might drag you down, and if you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
You're listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We are talking with Cindy McConkey Cox in the studio today, a media professional, a person who's been through a lot of different parts and pieces of broadcast and public relations. But Cindy, you were diagnosed with a rare form, an incurable form of liver. You say it because I can't pronounce it.
It's biliary liver cancer.
Thank you. We've talked a little bit about the effects on your family and your strength to face it head on, but you've had a lot of treatment.
Yes. I started out with chemotherapy that was supposed to last for 8 months, and I was fortunate in that I was in good shape physically that they could accelerate that, and they ended up giving me the treatment in about 4.5 months.
Oh my!
And
okay. You were diagnosed with this nearly 4 years ago.
Yes.
And they told
yes.
you had 18 months.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I wanted to get that out for
Right.
people who didn't hear it before.
And after that, I was recommended for an experimental proton treatment at MD Anderson. They had not done this proton treatment on liver cancer before.
Ever. Okay.
And so I was in that trial, and that rendered my first tumor, the primary tumor, necrotic, basically dormant.
Wow.
And then
What a blessing.
a few months after that, a second tumor came along. And so I went through another round of chemotherapy and had the first ever IRE treatment, which is an irreversible electroporation treatment at MD Anderson's, the first one they had ever done.
Wow.
So I've been a little bit of a guinea pig.
Yeah, you're an experiment, a walking experiment. Okay.
And I guess the point of sharing that, Tom, is to again offer a little bit of hope and encouragement to anyone with a diagnosis of cancer, because so much of what has kept me alive and the reason why I'm sitting here today are things that weren't on the table. They weren't available when I was first diagnosed. And so,
even as soon as 4 years ago.
Right. And so
Okay.
I'm currently in a drug trial that is a genetically targeted drug, and I've been in it almost 2 years, and it seems to be doing quite well. So
It's working.
I try to tell people it's not the death sentence, and that if you can get through the first, it's almost always chemo, and if you can get kind of through that first push and hang in there, it's really today about managing cancer. And just like you would manage high blood pressure, or you would manage heart disease or diabetes.
You've got to actively do it.
Yes.
And you've got to do your best to be in shape.
Yeah, and part of it is to be physically active, because if you're physically active, you're producing more cells, and if you're producing more cells, you're producing antibodies, and so it's all of that sort of thing. To stay strong in your mind and know the difference between being a little tired and truly being fatigued.
Yeah.
If you're tired, push through it, keep going. If you're fatigued, listen to your body, take a rest.
But what's encouraging is, and it's not really publicized, cancer is really, people are working on it. And
Absolutely.
people are coming up with stuff all the time that are trying to get the better of it.
Your life will be prolonged if you have the resilience and the resources around you to help you seek them out and stay on top of it.
So 18 months passes by. That was what they told you had, and that was 2 years ago.
Mm.
So where did you go from there?
Well, I took early retirement from Scripps Networks a year and a half into the cancer treatments, and I just decided I needed to focus on my family and focus on life and on my health and getting better. And so at the end of 2014, I retired, and I piddled around a little bit with some consulting for a year, and got my tennis game a little bit better, and spent a lot of time with my children and my husband. And I just felt like if God had kept me around this much longer, there was a reason for it. And what was it I was supposed to do? And I tried to put myself into kind of a quiet time and listen. And this opportunity fell in my lap to join an organization that was started here in Knoxville, but is now a national organization called Random Acts of Flowers.
Yes.
And
I want you to talk about that.
Random Acts of Flowers is a fantastic nonprofit here in town that provides hope and healing to individuals in healthcare and senior care facilities by taking recycled flowers, what basically would be trash, and remaking them into beautiful bouquets and personally delivering them.
So where do the flowers come from?
Various sources: florists, memorial services, weddings.
Okay.
Grocery stores.
They did their original purpose.
Yes, they've served their purpose, or they're maybe past their sell-by date, but they certainly have, some good life left into them. And what we really do in doing that, we're improving the health and the emotional well-being. We're changing the mood of someone that's in maybe a desperate situation, maybe in a lonely situation, and that really resonated with me because, again, I believe so much in the power of that positive mindset in helping you fight through maybe that next physical therapy session or fight through that fatigue you're feeling.
Yeah, but if somebody's laying in a hospital room alone, maybe has no family or no friends really too far around, and their room's empty.
Right.
And you guys come along and...
Or even, that maybe they have family and friends visiting them, but now this stranger cared enough about them to bring them a bouquet and to speak to them about their situation. It hits people all different ways, Tom, and I make it a point to go on the deliveries because they are so incredibly inspiring, and the testimonials we get from people are inspiring. So now it started in Knoxville, but we have branches now in Tampa Bay, Chicago, Silicon Valley, and Indianapolis.
Good. Yeah, you saw this. I know this story, but you saw this being the PR and the force that you are. So this doesn't need to be limited to Knoxville.
Well, it had already expanded to 4 of those locations, but when I came in, it was a small organization that had rapidly grown, but it needed some structure and rigor and backbone around it. So while I came in really to be a chief marketing officer, I all of a sudden was the accidental COO, and I've really enjoyed it. It's just a great organization. Our volunteers, it's volunteer run primarily. We have very small staff in each of those locations, and our volunteers are the heart and soul of that organization.
And so proud to be based right here in Knoxville.
Absolutely.
That's just it makes you tingle, because it's just such a great thing that spreads hope, and that's what I'm all about, and I know that's what you're all about. Is it's not always just about us. If you just sit there and think it's all about you, then a lot of darkness can set in. But when you start spreading hope and you start focusing your life on helping other people, the skies open up and you see such glory.
You really do. You really do. You see it in the eyes of these people when we deliver the flowers, and I see it when I'm able to share my story with someone who maybe is struggling, and I can just stop and offer them a word of encouragement and say, hey, you can do this. If I can do this, you can do this, and anybody can. I'm not special.
That's and to me, you are taking this and trying to make it a blessing, and it is. And people who are struggling, the first person they're going to listen to is someone who's been there. And when we take our struggles, whether it be cancer, whether it be a nosebleed, it's just a matter, if you take your struggles and you offer them to God and say, let me help somebody with this. I understand the pain. I may not get them out of it, but I understand the pain. And just being a shoulder sometimes can save somebody's life. And that's incredible. We have just a little bit of time left. We'll have final thoughts momentarily. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We will deal with more in just moments.
Just hold on to the promises. Hold on to the promises. Jesus is alive, so hold tight. Hold on to the promises. He'll break open the skies to save those who cry out his name.
You're listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a book about life, a book about worry, a book about dogs. And if you are a worrier or a dog lover, I believe you'll like it. It's available on Amazon. It's also available here in Knoxville at Cedar Springs Bookstore, Long's Drugstore, Farragut Pharmacy, just to name a few. In the studio with me today, Cindy McConkey Cox. Cindy, who has been a corporate executive in the broadcast and the media world and public relations, was dealt a difficult diagnosis 4 years ago. And now you are just powering through it, and you're also spreading hope. And what I want to talk about is, what do you, Cindy, and you get asked this a few times, what do you tell people who are facing this diagnosis, and it's a fresh wound, it's a fresh thought? What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them a couple of things, and a couple of them are very practical, like be your own advocate, do your own research, make sure you're getting the genetic testing done, and then and are you eating the right diet? But then I tell them to look for the God moments, because for me, as I said earlier, I didn't pray for healing, I prayed for strength of faith.
Yeah.
And sometimes that gets hard.
Sure it does.
And interestingly enough, the minute I said the prayer, I started seeing these glimpses of God saying, I got you. I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm with you. And everything from something as simple as the first time I went to MD Anderson in Houston for consultation, on the way back, and it wasn't very pretty. I mean, the diagnosis was not pretty.
Yeah.
And on the way back, we get on the plane, and I look out the window. There's not a cloud in the sky, not a cloud, but there's a rainbow over the wing when we take off.
Oh my!
And
That's
that
not
was
supposed to
a
happen.
God moment. And
Wow.
the next time I went down to MD Anderson, again on the flight, there's a rainbow over the wing. And more recently, when I was trying to get into this experimental drug trial, and I did not get into the one at MD Anderson, I called one of my good friends who works in the medical industry, and I said, "Do you know anyone at Sarah Cannon Research Institute? They have this drug trial, and I'm trying to get in it, and it's closed.
Yeah.
They aren't taking any more candidates."
Right.
And he said, "No, I don't." He said, "Wait." He said, "The CFO at the Kansas City hospital I work with just went to Sarah Cannon. Let me see if I can get in touch with him."
Goodness.
And so as I'm searching and trying to get into these drug trials, and I'm about to sign on with one in New York, which would have been much more difficult. It would have been living up there. It would have been traveling up there on a regular basis.
Right.
I get a phone call, and they got me in at the one in Sarah Cannon in Nashville.
Just for you.
Even though
they were closed.
Even though they were closed. And
Holy smokes.
so a God moment, that man, Marty Brown, was put in my life for a reason 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. God sticks his head in all the time. And even if we shut our eyes, he comes back. And he reminds us in any way he can to say, "I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And I got you."
Mm-hmm.
And that's so powerful.
And so I really think these God moments are in our life all along.
Yeah.
But you have to look for them. You have to recognize them.
It's sad, us humans, and I include myself very much, is sometimes it takes a very difficult circumstance to look for those things. Sometimes we say, "I got this. So life is going just fine." But we all have struggles. And we all have those moments where we go, "God, where are you?" And he is there. He's there. Cindy, thank you so much for sharing
Thank you, Tom.
your story, your encouragement, your hope, and what you do with Random Active Flowers and what you do with cancer patients who are looking for answers.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What a blessing. This is Dealing with Life. I hope you found encouragement. I hope you found hope through this. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We do this every single week. It's called Dealing with Life. I pray that you see God's glory today.
It's been